Okay, I can't guarantee it because I get in trouble by my attorney. But I will say this. You're going to come up with objections that are very typical of why you can't do it, which is human nature. Because anything new is uncomfortable. Anything new, oftentimes, people are often fearful of the unknown, okay? But I've been doing this long enough just to warn you, I can usually crush all objections. So if you come up with an objection of why you can't do it that I can't crush or overcome, then you should get a special prize. But let me get into these numbers, okay? So Mike's deal, okay? He got control of the land. I'm going to make this clear. He got control of it. My whole model is about controlling land, not owning land, okay? I can point out numerous reasons why it's much preferable to control versus own, okay? But so I'm going to write here. So he controlled the land. Control. My handwriting's horrible. And I'm left-handed, by the way. So what happens is if I put my hand on the whiteboard to try to control my writing, I smear the writing, okay? But he controlled the land for $6 million, okay? He got control of the land with a $6 million purchase price, all right? And then they put $650 grand. I'm going to write it over here, and you'll see why in a second. They put $650 grand into the deal, okay? But you need to understand that 200 of that was earnest money on the land. So meaning that it would get applied to the $6 million. So it doesn't actually decrease the purchase price. It doesn't decrease the profit, okay? It doesn't increase your basis. And then they put 450 grand into what's called entitlements. Okay, not entitlements, okay? Is that entitlements is the process of getting the land approved for development. That's what my LDP model is all about. Getting the land, getting control of the land, not owning it, and then running it through the entitlement process or getting it approved for development. Once you get it approved, you exit to one of the home builders of America through a double closing, simultaneous closing, where you use your buyer's money to pay your landowner, and then you make your profits out of the middle for the value you brought to the transaction or how much you increase the value of the asset because you're the one that did the entitlement work, okay? But they put 450 grand in entitlements. So that, but understand the 200, so it was 650 grand of capital, okay? I need to make that very clear. But only 450 actually increases his basis or what he's into the deal for because the 200 gets applied to the purchase price, okay? So plus 450K in entitlements. Okay, this pen sucks, by the way, in entitlements, all right? And so his total basis in the deal was $6.45 million bucks, okay? Well, I already told you he made 8 figures, right? And I'm going to humbly tell you this. Still to this day, I want to make this real. I've never made 8 figures on one deal. So Mike, his very first deal, learning from me, my model, makes more on one single deal than I've ever made on a deal in my career, okay? Now, I got a couple deals in the cooker right now that should change that fact, but I'm going to pass Mike up. Mike, if you're watching, just watch out, brother. But, and also Mike, by the way, has gone on to do numerous other successful 7-figure profit deals. But he sold the deal to the home builder, to the builder. He sold it for 17 million bucks. He sold that deal entitled for 17 million bucks. So what that means is Mike's profit from a single LDP deal, okay? What is that math? He made, that would equal 10.65 million, okay? How many of you have made $10.65 million on a single deal, right? Not to mention, how long did Mike say this deal took? I don't see it here on the slides. I think this was a longer deal. I think this deal took him, I think it took him like 3 years, okay? But just out of curiosity, actually, my team wants me to ask you something else, so I'm just going to read this, okay? 10.65 million on one deal. Type a 1 if that's more than you've made in your whole career. Give me a 1 in the chat if 10.65 million is more than you've made in your whole career. Which, remember, for Mike, it was more than he made in his whole 20-year career in real estate. Type a 2 if maybe you're not there yet, but you want to get there, right? Your plan is to make that much money plus more. Tell me, give me a 1 if you have, what does this say? Type 1, that's more, yeah. Type 1 in the chat if that is more than you've ever made, combined, your whole career. But type a 2 if, yes, that's true, but your plan is to get there, okay? Actually exceed it. All right, let's see. We got Michael's got a 1. Michael gave me a 2. He's going to get there. John's a 1. We got, okay. Man, the chat is real. The guys are blowing the chat up. So thank you. At the end of the day, most people have never made that much money in their whole career, but many of you want to get there. Okay? That's fair. That's the response I expect. All right? Because most people are like Mike, that they had never made that much money in their whole career combined. But yet Mike was determined to get there. Okay? So let's dive a little deeper. So you want me to erase this? Should I erase this?
Sure.
Okay, I do need to erase it. So bear with me. We're live. So bear with me as I erase. All right. So I want to do some math really quick. Let's go down here. So the most common real estate business model out there that everybody is teaching and that a lot of people are doing, and by the way, in my opinion, is a dying model, right? And jurisdictions can't stand the model, the government, okay, is wholesaling, okay? And we know on average a wholesaler, okay, so this is wholesaler. You're wholesaling deals. We know the average wholesaler makes 10 grand per deal, which, I mean, 10 grand is 10 grand. The problem is I don't like how you make the 10 grand. The way I want you to make money is by increasing the value of the asset. But 10 grand is good money, but it's minuscule compared to other models where you actually increase the value of the asset. So what happens is wholesaling is what I call a hamster wheel or chasing your tail. You got to do a gazillion deals to make any type of real money. But let's take it a step further. So if you're making 10 grand a deal, wholesalers, and on LDP, Mike made 10.65 million on one deal. How many deals do they got to do? How many deals does a wholesaler got to do? So what is that math there? So you got to do, if you want to convert this into this, you've got to do 1,000, is that right? 1,065 deals. Okay? You've got to close out 1,065 wholesale deals to make what Mike made. And just to be clear, you still wouldn't have made what Mike made. Because for you to do that many deals, you have a huge team. And for you to do that many deals, you spent a ton of money in marketing to where you still wouldn't even have made close to what Mike made. Even after doing over 1,000 deals, because Mike made it on one deal, right? He didn't need a team to do one deal. He didn't need to spend a gazillion dollars in marketing to do one deal. So, but just for simplicity, we'll pretend you could do that many deals without a team and without the marketing, okay? So let's just say I have a friend of mine, I believe to be the #1 wholesaler in the whole country, right? Does a ton of deals. But if you're doing 100 deals as a wholesaler, you're a baller. right? There's not a lot of wholesalers in the country doing 100 deals. Like very few wholesalers do 100 deals, okay, in a year. But let's just say you do 100 deals per year. You do 100 deals per year. So that means it would take you, what would that take you? That would take you 10.65 years to make that 10.65 million. Okay? If you're a baller wholesaler, it's taking you over 10 years per what Mike made on one deal. And here's one thing I want to be transparent though, real quick with Mike's deal. Mike's deal took 3 years. From the time he got control of it to the time he got paid on it, it took 3 years. Okay? So I do want to make that clear. So, but he made 10.65 million in 3 years on one single deal. And the reality is when it's only one deal, I'm going to say it again, you don't need the team. You don't need to spend $1 gazillion in marketing. You're not on a hamster wheel chasing your tail, just trying to do deals, and like you're not doing that. Okay? But it did take 3 years. We, on average, our last 10 deals, okay, on average, the duration, last 10 deals we've closed was 20 months. So just under 2 years, okay, is what our average deal takes, okay? And to be clear, my average profit on those 10 deals, okay, is it's like 2.7 million, okay? It ranges we've ran the numbers a gazillion ways, but at the end of the day, it's really 2.7. And so we do that over 20 months. In all reality, you're going to be hard pressed to show me any real estate model that can accomplish that in that period of time, okay? Without substantial risk, substantial debt, right? A team, a huge marketing budget, right? So let me ask you this. What does this say here? How many wholesales have you done total? So for those of you that are wholesalers, okay, tell me how many deals, just tell me how many deals a year on average do you wholesale, okay? Tell me in the chat how many deals a year if you wholesale, okay? How many deals a year do you average? Tell me in the chat. This delay kills me on live, by the way. I wonder if people on live, do they do a lot of chat stuff because it's so delayed? But tell me in the chat, if you're a wholesaler, how many deals on average you're wholesaling a year? All right? This delay just drives me nuts. Okay, let's just keep going. I mean, there's guys that, they're wholesaling 10 deals a year, right? They're making 100 grand a year. They might not need a big team to do that or a huge marketing budget to do that, but they're wholesaling 10 deals a year, okay? So they're making 100 grand, okay? So what would that be? They're doing 10 deals, so that goes into that 10. So that means it would take you over 100 years to make what Mike made in one deal, okay? All right, let's move past the wholesalers. Let's get a little more juicy, okay? We're going to get into some other models where you actually do increase the value of the asset, meaning it's a value-add business model, all right? So I'm going to grab the eraser again and go again, okay? All right? Some of you are fix and flippers, right? You buy probably mainly single-family residential, you fix it up, and you sell it. By the way, totally a value-add business model because you make money by fixing up the asset, increasing the value of the asset, and then reselling it. To me, any model that's a value-add model, I respect it, okay? Any model that's not a value-add model, I don't respect it, okay? But it's a value-add model. But just because it's a value-add model doesn't mean it's necessarily the best model or the best return on your time, right? But let's look at fix and flipping. Let's just say they have a whole chart here for me, but I'm just going to say a typical fix and flipper I'm going to round the numbers even up. Okay, they have numbers on here. I think they got them from AI. It says 25 grand they make conservatively, 40 grand typically, 60 grand aggressive. Okay, I'm only going to do one. All right, and so I'm going to take typical, and instead of saying 40 grand, I'm going to give fix and flippers the benefit of the doubt, and let's just call it 50 grand. Okay, so a fix and flipper, let's just say, giving you the benefit of the doubt, after your construction costs of whatever fixing up you did, after you pay the realtors. By the way, we don't use realtors in our model, by the way, okay? Because who we sell to is very targeted to where we don't need an agent to represent us. So we avoid real estate commissions for where that's worth. But you more than likely have a fix and flip or not, right? So after real estate commissions, you know, your closing costs on the buy side and the sell side, once it's all the costs are said and done, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you make 50 grand a deal. Okay. Well, how does that equate, right? Do we want to do the math again? I mean, you probably might have already done it, but LDP, we're using this whole live is anchored to Mike Foley, just to be clear. And by the way, I just said his name. I try to not say people's last names publicly, but I believe it says his name publicly everywhere online. So his name's Mike Foley. Okay. Go into YouTube, type in, you know, Cody Bjugan, Mike Foley, and probably the interview will pop up. But so he made, again, 10.65 million. Okay. So how many deals would that be? Okay. 10 million. It's a lot of numbers. 10, 650, 000. Divide that by 50,000. So, no big deal. You just got to do 213 fixes. What I'm trying to anchor here is when I look at best use of time, it's how many transactions do I got to do in order to make the type of money I want to make, or that I've envisioned making, right? Or the life I want my family to have, or the way I want to give back to the world, right? Through charity, whatever it may be. Like, the point I'm trying to get at is I don't mind the fix and flip model at all because it's a value add model. It's just, the question is, when you're trying to balance all the pillars of your life, you know, being a, whatever it may be, being a good spouse, being a good, you know, mother or father, right? Being in good health, taking care of your body, traveling, life experiences, right? All these things in life that we've got to figure out in order to truly have a successful legacy is, if you're on a hamster wheel in your career where you've got to do a gazillion transactions, it makes it that much harder to keep all those pillars of life in balance, right? But fix and flippers, for whatever it's worth, 213 fix and flips, 213 to make 10.65 million bucks. Let me ask you this. Do we have any fix and flippers here? Tell me in the chat. If there's any fix and flippers in the chat, tell me, okay, how many flips you do per year. How many flips do you do per year? Type the number in the chat. How many flips do you do per year? I would say probably a good, like a solid fix and flipper is probably, let's just say they're doing one every other month, right? Because remember, these deals, we're wholesaling, you're probably in and out in what, I don't know, 2 weeks to a month. Fix and flipping, I don't know, maybe you're in and out of the deal on an average of, I don't know, I'm going to make something up because I have no idea. Let's just say you're in and out of it, you know, every 90 days, right? That seems gracious. Maybe it's 120, maybe it's 180, I don't know. This thing just disconnected from the computer again, or from the, sorry, my screen share disconnected here. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, I got it. All right, cool. Hang with me. So tell me, there's been enough delay there. Any fix and flippers? How many fixes do you do Okay, we got 5 to 10. All right, we got a 5 to 10. Muffins, Mr. Muffins, 5 to 10 a year. Cool. I was getting ready to say, Mr. Muffins, since you're in the chat, this 20-second delay is driving me nuts. Mr. Muffins, how long on average from the time you close on a deal to the time you sell a deal does it take? Okay, I'm guessing it's 90 days to 180 days. Okay, tell me in the chat. And you guys can monitor the chat. I'm going to keep going. But let's just say a solid fix and flipper does, let's just say 6 deals a year. Actually, let's just take Mr. Muffin. Okay, he said 5 to 10. We're going to call it 8. Okay, you're going to do 8. Okay, and let's just say the average is 50. That might not be yours, Mr. Muffin, 50, but you might be in a unique market or whatever it may be. Let's just bear with me. Let's just call it 50 grand. Okay, that's 400K. Okay, 400 grand. So I love math, but I always go to the calculator these days. So, well, that's 26 years of your life. No big deal. That's 26 years of your life trying to manage all those contractors, the buy closing, the sell closing. You know, I'll in the Great Recession, I did some fix and flips. Oh, never again, right? I hated it. Nothing against the model. I respect the model, okay? For me, no go, right? I open up the walls, or I pull up the subfloor and I hit dry rot, or, I mean, we were probably too granular, but like we didn't like go in and tear the whole thing out and gut it, but it's like you just keep uncovering all these problems, or it's like, this is a stupid, like we're missing, like all the cabinet knobs look great, right? But I'm missing one. One cabinet knob's missing. And so me or someone on my team's running all around trying to find this one stupid $5 cabinet knob. Like, no thanks, right? So anyways, but no big deal. 26 years of your life and managing all those contractors, dealing with all that. Again, I respect it, but not for me. Did Mr. Muffin tell me? He said 60 to 90 days. Okay, I said 90 to 180. All right, cool. All right, let's keep going. Probably the value add model that I actually really like the model a lot. That's not my model, the LDP model. But it's a very slow model. It's a beautiful model, but it is slow, okay? And it's why I always suggest when people ask me if they should do this model or my model, my opinion is you should do both. But if I was to pick one or the other to do first, I would pick my model. And the reason I'd pick my model is because my model has the ability to generate a substantial amount of capital in a quick amount of time compared to the capital you generate, okay? And so what happens is when you do my model and generate that capital, it allows you to scale this other model much quicker, okay? Because money is a tool, all right? But I like the model, and that is rentals. Okay? Is rentals. So let me scroll here, keep going. Let's hang with me. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So, real quick, tell me in the chat if you own rentals. Give me an R in the chat. Give me an R in the chat. I'm not going to sit around here and wait 20 seconds for your response, so my team will monitor the chat. But give me an R in the chat if you do rentals, okay? And we just did an AI search, right, looking at real quick numbers, okay? But it said that rentals A good rental, okay, is generating about $200 a month. About $200 a month cash flow. Considered a good rental, okay? And so that equals $2,400 a year, okay? I like the model. I'm going to say it again. I like the model. There's advantages to rentals. There's appreciation, right? The asset's appreciating. Love it. There's tax benefits, depreciation. Love it. There's lots of cool things about rentals. But to generate substantial wealth in any reasonable amount of time is very difficult, okay? But I do love the model. But let's see what that looks like, right? So if it makes 2.4 or two, not 2.4, I was about ready to say 2.4 million. No, not even close. If it makes $2,400 a year, okay, let's just use little old Mike's number again. 10,650,000 divided by 2,400. Okay, holy shit, that's a big number. Wow, is that right? It is. Wow. I can't even write it. It's so comical. I told you the model was slow, but I didn't realize it was this slow. It would take you 4,437 years if you owned one rental to make what Mike made on one deal, okay? Over 4,000 years. But let's just say you own 200 of them, which if you own 200 of them, you have a solid portfolio. Like, there's very few people out there that own 200 rentals, okay? But let's just say you own 200 rentals. Gosh, that was funny. Divide that by 200. Oh, gosh. So if you own 200 rentals, okay, it would take you 22 years. It would take you 22 years to make what Mike made on his very first LDP deal. Again, I love rentals. I love rentals, okay? But I believe you should have both. Take the capital you generate from my model and go invest a portion of that into owning rentals. Because I love appreciation. I love the tax benefits. I love it as a place to bank your money because cash flow is a beautiful thing, right? It pays you every month, right? Because with my model, let's be open, with fix and flip, with wholesale, you're only as good as your next deal, right? It's got to be another deal and another deal and another deal if you want to continue to make more money. Where with rentals, it's cash flow, right? That's why I love it so much, beyond appreciation and then the tax benefits. But tell me this. Did anybody put an R in the chat that they own rentals? Okay, no one owns rentals. I was just curious if you owned rentals, how many units do you own? And put that number in the chat, right? And by the way, if you don't own rentals at all, give me a 0 in the chat. You own no rentals, put a 0 in the chat. I'm going to tell you this. I own 0 rentals, but I'm invested passively as a capital investor into all kinds of rentals because I don't want to operate the business. I don't want to deal with the tenants. I don't want to deal with the property management. I don't want to deal with any of that, okay? So I take the capital and I invest into rentals, which then it's passive cash flow, okay, versus active cash flow, where you're actively working in the business, okay? All right. What else we got here? You got a testimonial from Mike? Okay, go for it.
I finally got the wire, and then just cried for about 10 minutes.
Dude, I can tell you're emotional just thinking about it. I love that, brother.
Eventually, we had like 5 bidders, both build to rent and national builders, and all the big guys bidding against each other, and we ended up at 17.
Wow. So, so
17 million.
I real quick, we're gonna celebrate that in a second, but
Yeah.
just because I want to do the math, rough numbers would be 17 million minus 6.65. So what my calculator says is 10,350,000. I'm gonna be vulnerable with y'all for a second. Okay, that's an 8-figure profit. Mike just set the record. This is me being transparent, vulnerable. 10.35. Mike, is more than I've ever made on a deal.
Definitely never made the kind of money on a single deal. And I would say, I've been in real estate for 20 plus years. So I'd say this one deal maybe equaled the previous 20 years. So
Wow.
a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over the years. And I think for me, the smartest decision I ever made, and that was part of joining the Best Right course, but also deciding I just want to do fewer, bigger deals. And and that the result has been, I'm not quite as crazy busy. I'm not working 70 hours a week. I'm not as stressed out. And I had a lot of help from a lot of people, including Best Right. So yeah, that was a big day. I remember, everybody was asking me, like, did the money come in? Did you get the wire? And I kept refreshing my computer and finally got the wire, and then just cried for about 10 minutes.
Dude, I can tell you're emotional just thinking about it. I love that, brother.
It was, just as a man, you strive to, to support your family and to have that. And I just knew,
wow,
striving, for decades to try to get that, financial independence. So.
I'm back. All right. Tell me real quick. So we talked about wholesaling, we talked about fix and flipping, and we talked about rentals. Tell me, hopefully one of those that had the most impact on you as far as how you're looking at the math, right? Give me a W for wholesaling, give me an F for fix and flip, and give me an R for rental. Which of those, if any, was like, oh, wow, I hadn't really looked at it that way or thought about it like that? Tell me in the chat which it is. Was it the wholesaling example? Was it the fix and flip example? Was it the rental example? Okay? Tell me what it is in the chat. All right. I want to deal with objections for a second. So in your head, as I shared Mike's story, and by the way, in that video we just showed you, the number was 10.35 million, I think. But it's because we didn't take into account the earnest money that was applied to the purchase price, okay? That's why that number's different, because actually a portion of the capital they put up of that 650 was earnest money towards the purchase price of the land. So that's why what I wrote here and what you saw in that video different, okay? But it's natural tendency, man. I know I'm guilty of it, and I've got to, and as soon as I feel it come into my mind, I got to push it away. But our natural tendency, I don't know if it's just because of our society and how they've trained us to think, but a lot of people, their tendency is why they can't do it. Here's why I can't do it. That Mike story, cool story, but here's why I can't be a Mike, right? Call it imposter syndrome, call it insecurity, call it the way your parents might have trained you to think, might have been the way you watched your parents think, whatever it may be, okay? You've had failures before. You don't want to fail again, right? Can I tell you, I've failed way more in my life than I've ever succeeded, okay? But the question is, are you willing to continue to fail and fail and fail until you finally succeed? But it's all the reasons why they can't. So as I share that Mike story, here's what probably some common objections would be, or excuses in my eyes, why they can't do it. And it's really the underlying current of the whole thing is fear, okay? But it could be, well, I don't have 650 grand. Mike made that, but it took 650 grand, right? Or it could be, dude, it took him 3 years. Like, a deal taking 3 years? Well, Show me how many other models out there where you can make over $10 million in 3 years. Okay? And in a moment, I'll show you without having any capital at all. Okay? Let's address them one. But you know what? Before we address them, before I overcome them, if capital is your reason why you kind of dismissed the Mike story, if the 650, give me a C in the chat. Capital is the reason why you can't do it. Okay? Or if it's 3 years, I don't want to do something that takes 3 years. Remember, my average deal takes 20 months, but let's just say it is 3 years. Man, I don't want it to take 3 years to make 10.65 million. Tell me in the chat, give me a why if it's because of the years. And by the way, most of you answered earlier in the chat that in your whole career, you haven't made that much money. Okay? So, tell me in the chat, give me a C for capital, give me a Y for years. My husband knows how to do this, but we don't have capital. Okay, perfect, Erica. He knows how to do it, which is absolutely awesome. I don't know how that's possible if you haven't done it, but it could be because maybe he's a civil engineer or something. I don't know, but you don't have the capital. Okay. All right, we're going to deal with it. But 3 years, you're a wholesaler. I'm used to being in and out of deals in 2 weeks to a month. Like 3 years, right? Yeah, but we laid out earlier, you got to do a gazillion deals, right? And chase your tail every day to make that type of money. But capital. And Mike used investors on that deal, right? Capital will never be a problem. And here's why. Back before we had a bunch of capital, I always told my team, it was just me and a couple people on my team for many, many years. I always told them, we find the deals, we go source the deals, the capital will come. Capital is attracted to good deals. And in my 23-year career, we've never not done a deal because we couldn't find the capital. Ever. You can use friends and family money. There's plenty of investors out there that will invest in these deals. But let me, you know what, and one of the ninja moves that others have done, and I've done before, is you actually use the buyer's money, whoever you're going to sell the deal to, because they're more than likely flush with capital, with cash. You can get them to potentially cash flow or put up the capital to do these deals. Because at the end of the day, they want the deal. All right? But forget all that. You go source the deal, and I'll teach you how to do it. I'll teach you how to find the deals. Okay? I'll put you into my community where there's a bunch of us in there. We're called dirt dogs. Bunch of us in there doing deals, dirt dogging. Okay? We have 3 live weekly calls. It's like an endless community and resources. Yes, we teach you the whole model, which is education, but then it's all the stuff beyond that. But we're going to teach you how to source these deals. And anybody that is a Vest Right Dirt Dog Pack member, meaning they're a member of my education company, they're able to partner with me, with my company, Allied Development. And so you go find the deal. I'm going to crush the capital objection you have right now. We will put up the capital. So I never want to hear from you again, we don't have the capital, because I just told you, if you find a deal that's worth doing, we will put up the capital. So that excuse or that reason should not come up again. All right? That's straight up. We'll even negotiate the purchase with the landowner. We'll even run the entitlements. We'll even sell the deal. But the biggest thing I'm dealing with right now is we will put up the capital. Okay? So let that objection go. All right? Next is years. I think it's just a ridiculous objection, but it comes up. You can't show me another model out there where you control the real estate, you don't own it. You don't do any construction. There is no debt, right? You can't show me another model out there that works like that, where you can make this type of multiple on your cash in this amount of time. You cannot show me another model that can generate that type of capital in 3 years with that little of capital relative to the payday. You can't show it to me, right? So at the end of the day, the 3 years is absolutely irrelevant. You know, I've said before, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme, okay? There's no scheming here. And then a friend of mine said, well, Cody, it is kind of a get-rich-quick thing. I was like, you know what? I guess when you think about it, it really is. Because I don't know of another model out there in this short amount of time, you can generate this much money with that little capital compared to the upside. I don't know of another model. Let alone you control the real estate, you don't own it. Let alone you don't take on any debt, right? So, you know, that's something to think about. All right. I'm going to do one more illustration for you. And this is just something the team threw in here. I don't know. It's somewhat congruent, but it'll give you, I'm going to give you a little cheat code here real quick, okay? What we do when we go value what land is worth that has development potential, we start with what the homes would sell for there, and we do the math backwards all the way down to what the land's worth, okay? And by the way, we teach you how to do all that, okay? But it's just kind of a shortcut. It's kind of a cheat code, okay? But let's just say that the homes, let's use easy math so I don't have to grab my calculator, okay? Let's just say the homes on average will sell for 500 grand, okay? We have numerous ways we underwrite a deal to establish what we think the land is worth. But here's one of the shortcuts. Is usually each market has what's called a ratio of what a finished lot is worth compared to what the home is worth. And so the finished lot is when we go and the land, and our client, whoever buys the deal from us, they go in and they put in all the streets, the utilities, the sidewalks, all that. When they're done putting in all that infrastructure, they now have a finished lot that a home can be built on, okay? And so we do our math from the home value down to the finished lot value, all the entitlement costs, land development costs, clear down to what the land's worth. But a quick shortcut is that each market usually runs at a ratio. And that ratio is somewhere between 20 and 40%. So meaning that the finished lot, depending on the market, is worth somewhere between 20 and 40% of what the house is worth, okay? And by the way, usually the higher the sales prices or what the homes are worth, usually the higher the ratio. Usually the lower the homes are selling for, the lower the ratio. It's simple supply and demand, right? Demand drives up house prices, okay? And then because of that demand, it increases what the finished lots are worth from a ratio standpoint. So I'm going to lay out an example. I'm going to first say this. At my company, we rarely do deals that market's at a 20% ratio, right? Because it could be that market, like the 20% market, okay? The 20% market could be that the homes are 300 grand times 20%, okay? Those finished lots are worth 60 grand, okay? $300,000 home, 20%. Those finished lots are worth 60 grand. I'm just going to tell you, that's hard to make money. It's just hard to make money, all right? Where, let's take more of, say, one of, I don't know, let's just say an average deal for us, okay? I said I was going to do 500 grand, and now I'm not doing it, but that's okay. So let's just say that's a 20% deal, okay? We'll do 500 because I don't want to rewrite this, okay? Let's just say at 500 grand, it's a 25% market, okay? So what is that? That's 125,000, I believe. So that's $125,000 finished lot, okay? We can make money at that, okay? Let me tell you a deal we did not too long ago. And by the way, the larger this number is, more than likely, the smaller the project can be for you to make good money. Simple math, right? Because the more meat there is on the bone per lot, the less lots you need to make any type of substantial money, okay? By the way, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. Mike Foley's deal was 350 lots, okay? Just so you know, Mike Foley's deal was 350 lots. But let me tell you about a deal we did recently, okay? Is that the homes in that market were worth 800 grand. And the ratio that we sold, those finished lots were valued at, was 42%. So that means that those finished lots were worth $336K each. Okay? That deal was only 39 lots. Our average deal is like 200 last 10 deals on average that we closed are 162 deals, or 162 lots on average. Deals we currently are working on, it's more like 250, 260, okay? But that deal was less than 50 lots. Less than 50 lots. And we made a mid-seven-figure payday, okay? Mid-seven-figure payday on that deal. I don't remember exactly. It was just under $5 million, okay? But it was only because of the 800 grand and the 42%, okay? And the lots being worth 336 grand finished. But remember, I didn't finish them. My buyer bought it from me, approved for development, and they did all the development, okay? All right, cool. Tell me real quick, did you know about that shortcut, these ratios, these finished lot to home values? Did you know about that ratio? Tell me really quick in the chat. Give me a Y in the chat if you already knew that, right? Which, don't take this the wrong way, but there's no way very many of you knew that, okay? But if you did know that, put that in the chat as far as finished lot to home value ratios, okay? Tell me in the chat if you knew about it. Yes? Give me an N in the chat if it's no, okay? Got one yes? Cool. 3 yes, 4 yes, 5 yes. No, I'm just kidding. Well, good. I'm glad you guys knew that. All right, so this is something that's really important. And I'm getting hot, by the way. All right, I'm going to take my jacket off. I shared 4 models, including my own, okay? One of the models I don't like. 3 of them I do like, okay? Because they're value-add business models. But the thing is, just because I like the model doesn't mean it's the best use of my time. At least not today, right? So for you, if you understand, and if you don't, we can teach you how. But if you currently know how to go and find or source off-market deals, say for wholesaling, say for fix and flipping, whatever it may be, okay? And by the way, on average, wholesalers are the best off-market prospectors in the world, okay? Unfortunately, I just think there's a better use of their time, okay? You know how to underwrite deals, right? At least in your model, right? You know how to talk to property owners, you know, or landowners, house owners. You know how to talk to owners. But what if we just took that gift or that skill set or that experience and just shifted it, right? Just focused on a different asset class. How would that impact your life over the next 3 to 5 years? What kind of impact would that have, right? We just got to teach you some of the other stuff, right? We got to teach you about how entitlements work, right? We got to teach you what our contract works like in our industry. How do we get control of the land for that period of time, right? What actually creates development potential? What makes a piece truly developable? that's a laundry list, right? There's just additional things, how to negotiate with these home builders of America, right? How to learn the way they think, right? How to position yourself with these home builders, okay? And by the way, a lot of people say, well, Cody, you know all these builders and you have all these national relationships. That's true. But it should be clear, my clients could care less if you brought them a deal or I did. At the end of the day, they're deal junkies and we're all just deal flow for them, okay? They need deal flow. You know why they need deal flow? Because there's a housing shortage in our country. It's a crisis, okay? Realistic numbers is 3 to 4 million units, okay? Houses. They need inventory. So just know, don't have that type of mindset that, well, Cody has all these clients and all these relationships. Honestly, I guess I wish I was more special than I am. I don't know. But the reality is they could care less if you're bringing them a deal or I'm bringing them a deal. All right. So think about that. So we're going to pivot here. This thing keeps disconnecting from this TV. I don't know how to fix that. Ready to make it. So has any of this been informative? Has it been eye-opening, or am I just up here wasting my time and energy and breath? But has any of this been informative? And if it has been, and you know what? I think I really need to think about this. I think I might be ready to make a pivot. I think I might be ready to face my fears and make a jump. If you think you might be ready, and I'm not pitching you here, give me an R in the chat. Yeah, I think I'm ready. Give me an R in the chat. And by the way, in all reality, most people that have made the pivot had fear about making the pivot. But you know what? They chose to make it anyways. There's a saying out there, to continue to level up in life, you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you aren't willing to get uncomfortable, you're more than likely will never level up. That's just the reality. I don't care what anybody says. I've lived it. It's the reality. Okay? But give me an R in the chat. Yeah, you know what? I might be ready. Okay? We got some R's. Appreciate that. If let's just say you're still exploring, you're open to it, but you need to continue to learn more, right? Give me an L in the chat, right? If you need to learn more, give me an L in the chat, all right? But now here's what I want to do. I want to open it up. Give me questions. Give me questions in the chat, questions about anything I talked about today, questions about my model, questions about, if you really want to know my shoe size or why I'm bald, I can answer those questions too. But give me some questions, and let's start hammering out some questions. We're to the live Q&A section now, and then after that, I'm going to drop you a code to where you can get a free gift from me after the live chats or live Q&A is over. So give me, is there questions in the chat?
This real quick will be on YouTube.
Yeah, so this will be recorded. It'll be on YouTube, the team's saying later. So yes, it will be. It is recorded and it will be put on YouTube. You consider assigning versus going through the entitlement process, time value. So it said, I'd love to hear how you consider assigning versus going through the entitlement process, time value. Okay. For me, it's all about risk reward. Assigning, you're not going to make the Mike Foley 10.65 million, right? What you'd be better off doing is partnering with Allied Development. Allied Development will do all the work, put up all the capital, and then we'll cut you in on the profits on the end, because that's how you can make more money without doing all the work, okay? But if you just want to flip contracts, you're good luck on the 7-figure paydays, right? Good luck. And so it depends on who you are, right? If you just want to be a deal junkie and just tie up deals and flip them, you could. Just understand you're gonna have to do a lot more deals to make the money we're talking about. But there's nothing wrong with that at all. We don't get into the assignment business just because we want to see it all the way through. All right. And I don't want to have to do 500 deals. Right. I'd rather be able to do 15 deals. Make sense? All right. What else we got? So I'm a wholesaler and done fix and flips. How much capital is needed realistically? Okay. So I'm getting ready to interview a student. Okay. That had recent success. Not a huge payday, but still success. They did a deal. I believe the numbers were roughly, don't hold me to this interview that's coming up. I think the deal took, I don't know, I think it was a year or something like that, a little longer than a year. They put 53 grand into the deal, either them or friends and family or an investor did. And I think they made like 160,000. Okay. It's all relative to the size of the deal. The smaller the deal, the less capital it's going to take. The bigger the deal, the more capital it's going to take. I used to do a lot of smaller deals, but then I figured out that the big deals are no more work than the small deals. So now I do bigger deals. But like our stats, as far as our last 10 closings, based upon making it relative to someone like you, is the capital into a deal was like 570 grand. Okay. Took 20 months. So put out that 570 grand over 20 months. And average profit was like 2.7 million. So meaning made 2.7 million plus got the 570 grand cash back. All right. But if you don't want to do deals that big, you don't have to, because the average deal was 162 lots. Right. So 162 lots, 570 capital, 2.7 million profit, 20 months. Those were our average of our last 10 closings based upon if we were in your shoes. Okay. And the reason I say it that way, just to, full disclosure, is because our deals are all done through funds, right? We have tons of investors. And so there's fees involved and preferred returns and all of these complicated things. First 18 years of my life, it was nothing like that. Okay. Or in the career. All right, let's keep going. What else? Okay, I already hit that. So if it come across a huge acreage at the time, but never thought about entitlement. Yeah, so the key is development potential. I've had friends call me over the year and say, man, I found you a beautiful piece. I'm like, really, what's the address? They give it to me, and it is a beautiful piece of property. The problem is it doesn't have development potential, right? So the key is understanding what makes a piece of property have development potential. And, real quick, high level, not getting into the details. It's zoning. What can it be zoned or rezoned to? It's access. The public's got to be able to get to it. It's public right away, right? It's overlays. Make sure you understand overlays. And is the property, is it in a wetland? Is it environmental overlay, steep slopes, all these different things. Understanding usable land versus unusable land. It is topography. What is the grade of the land, which affects the cost to develop it. And then lastly is utilities, right? For the type of projects we do, we need public utilities, public water, public sewer, sanitary sewer. And so is the utilities at the property or near the property, right? Just that's really high level, but it needs that development potential. And that's why the model is called LDP, land with development potential. All right, what other questions we got? Okay, how do I join your free group? So I don't think I ever mentioned free, but we actually do have a free group. And so how can I, how should I answer that?
Vestright.com.
Yeah.
Top right, free community.
Okay. Vestright, which is my education company, VESTRIGHT, vestright.com. That's our website of our education company. Top right corner is like join free community. And so you can actually get into the free version of our community. Obviously, the free version doesn't have all the tools and resources and doesn't have access to most of the channels, right, that our paid members do. Don't have access to all the live calls, don't have access to any of the course content, blah, blah, blah. But absolutely, we do have a free portion of the community, and that's how you can get there. Okay?
This one comes up a lot about people wanting to split their first deal profit to be able to get in the group.
So that is a common one. So my team just pointed out in the chat, one of the things is, hey, well, how about, can I come in, not pay you up front, okay, and be a part of the calls and the community and get all the content, which, by the way, we've been doing this 6 years. Online education companies have huge chargeback rates, right? Meaning that people will file something with their credit card company wanting a refund. And it's called a chargeback. And usually in online education business, chargebacks are very, very high. InvestRight, chargebacks are non-existent, okay? Don't hold me to this, but I've had less than a handful, I think, in the last almost, 6 years, right? My point is the content in the program is amazing, okay? I've had numerous people tell me it's the best program they've ever been through in real estate. So, but you want all that for free. But in return, Cody, I'll cut you in on the profit when I do my first deal. Awesome. I understand why you're thinking that, but I'll never do it. And here's why I'll never do it. Is it because I need your money up front to pay my electrical bill? No. Okay? I don't need your money to pay my electrical bill. It's because if you don't stroke a check for it, you're way, way, way less likely to actually do anything with it or be successful. It's going to sit on the shelf and collect dust. So no, I'm not going to release all my intellectual property for free. And because you didn't actually make an investment into yourself and your career and your life, you don't do anything with it. And you know what? Even what you pay me, it might be painful. Like, I don't know your finances. It might be painful. You know what? You might not like what I'm about to say. I'm glad it was painful. You know why I'm glad it's painful? Because you're that much more likely to actually do something, right? So I don't mind that it hurt because now you're actually more than likely going to execute. Make sense? All right, cool. What else? Any other questions I should hit? Okay. Okay. We stop scrolling. Okay. We took the shorter VestRight course. Do we need to confirm with the landowner they are willing to sell before we submit a potential deal to you? Or will your team reach out to the seller? This question just came up yesterday. And I was very clear with my team yesterday. I said, if someone submits a deal where the landowner hasn't raised their hand yet that they're interested in selling, shut the deal down and tell them to not submit it until the landowner has raised their hand. Because that's just great. You send me a property, but you haven't done any work, right? Like, I guess you can send it to me, but the thing is, if I end up doing something with it, I'm not going to pay you anything because you didn't do anything, right? You literally just fired me off some address. If you want to get a piece of the profit, then you get them to raise their hand because now you've brought me value. You've brought value to the deal. So do not send me deals where you haven't made connection with the landowner and they've expressed interest in selling. Because we do our own in-house sniping where we go and we snipe properties that we want to buy, and then we bring those into our system and we start marketing to them. Is that, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't need your snipe. I already have my own snipes, but I will take your hand raise, right? Bring me a landowner that has a hand raise. Otherwise, I'm not interested. And so we actually have a leadership meeting later today, and I'm going to lay down the law to our ACT team. If a deal gets submitted where there's not a hand raise, shut it down. Okay? All right, cool. What else?
I guess Baloney has 2 questions.
Okay. What's your hedge if a deal drops before closing? Went through full entitlements, then your buyer drops out. Great question. So my buyers on average put up 15% earnest money. Okay? So non-refundable earnest money. So the beautiful part is even if my buyer doesn't perform, their earnest money, the goal is their earnest money covers all my capital into the deal plus more. And then I have the opportunity to go resell it to a different builder. So we don't wait till the last minute to sell our deals. We try to sell them early on because that earnest money from my buyer is an insurance policy. And let's just say my buyer says, well, I'll put up, 1% earnest money or something. I would never do it, right? Our buyers put up 15% earnest money, never less than 10%, okay? And that's for us, we want it to hurt really, really bad if they don't close, okay? And in the last decade, over a decade, I've only had one buyer not close on my deals. What'd I do? Yeah, I took their non-refundable earnest money and I went and sold the project to somebody else. That's how that works. Okay, what else? There was another question related to that too. All right, so he said, do your paid members get access to programs and software? So yes, you get access to all kinds of stuff, right? As far as programs, and we teach our Model A to Z. It's realistically about an 8-week course. I forget how many hours it is. It's like, I don't know, what is it, 35 hours or something like that of content. But it's more about the community and the 3 live calls a week. And it's about all that stuff, right? It's about, we give you our purchase and sale agreement. That agreement, I've probably spent $100 grand on that agreement. It's a part of what you get, right? And it's a specialty contract just for this business model. You get, all kinds of stuff. But software, can I be frank? There is no software out there that has been built for this business model, okay? And like, there's guys out there right now saying, oh, come buy my specialty AI sourcing software. You realize all that is a white label of something someone else built, right? And so, no, I don't have some proprietary software that is going to handle your sourcing for you. Is there softwares out there that we utilize at our company that are very valuable for our business model? Absolutely. Do you have to have those subscriptions to be successful? Absolutely not. You could be successful literally with Google, right? And city and county websites, right? And then somehow some type of skip tracing software, to get owner contact info. But no, I don't have some proprietary VestRight software.
If someone wants to learn more about how this works and get into your program, how would they find that?
Yeah, so someone on my team, I don't know if he saw it in the chat, maybe he did. If you want to find out more about VestRight and how to get into this program, and what I would suggest you do is you get on a call with our team. That's what I would suggest you do, okay? And I want to be clear. We're getting more and more picky on this. It is not just you deciding if you want to be a part of our program. It's if we want you to be a part of the program. Because here's the thing. Great, you stroke us a check to be a part of it. But if we don't think it's very likely you're actually not going to do anything with it, it's kind of pointless, right? There's no fulfillment in that. If you know anything about me, my slogan is PIF, Purpose, Impact, Fulfillment. And guess what? I'm out there serving a purpose, have an impact, and through impact, I get fulfillment. And if you're not going to do anything with it, my chances of impact go to 0. And so therefore, what I'm striving for, I'm chasing fulfillment. I have no chance of fulfillment with you, right? And so just to be frank, it's a 2-way conversation. So with that said, put LDP in the chat right now, LDP, if you want to learn more about VestRight, and my team will send you how to get a call booked with my team, okay? And we can explore whether this is a good fit, all right? So what else? Anything else?
No, let's just go to free gift.
All right, so free gift. I promise you a free gift at the end. Let me see how they want me to do this. So I use LDP. So I just, do you want me to, so I'm going to do this. Is it a DM or is it in the chat?
It's in the comments.
Okay. All right. So in here, in the chat, right? In comments, if you want my free calculator, this is actually really congruent today because I just went over so many numbers, right? If you want, $10.65 million, give me a break, right? I get it. That's cool. But if you want to see how it actually works, I'm going to send you a free calculator from my LDP model. It's called the Profit Projector Calculator, and it's going to show you exactly how the math works. Okay? So if you want that, do me a favor. You want them to drop calc in the chat? Yeah? Give me a CALC, calc, in the chat if you want my free calculator to see exactly how all this math works. Drop it in the chat, and I'll send you my free calculator. All right? With that said, I just knocked out, I think, my 5th live. Man, I'm not near as nervous as I was on the first one. With that said, thank you so much for joining me. I sure hope you learned something. And with that, I'm going to be doing these every week for the foreseeable future. So this time again, next week, next Wednesday, and let's roll. And let's just grow and learn together. All right, take care.